Today I'm going to be ranking every room from Star Wars by design and beauty because ranking frames, battles, and colors isn't specific enough. So we need to get even more redundant, and also at the end I'll be analyzing which movie has the best rooms overall. At number 30 is Lars Homestead Garage.
He's holding me back!
I have this one in last because it is essentially just a dark garage with an oil bath for droids and some broke down old ships and speeders like the TC-17 Skyhopper we see in Attack of the Clones, which Luke would later have a toy of. I felt the need to count this as an important room, though, because this is where two different notable scenes from the movies take place, with Anakin confessing to Padme about how he slaughtered the Tusken Raiders, and then with Luke receiving the message about Princess Leia being in trouble. At 29 is the Watto shop, and Watto isn't really known for home decor, which is obvious here because other than some pit droids, some cool parts, and a reference to 2001: A Space Odyssey, this room is just a bland shop on Tatooine. Now you might have noticed, why are there only 30 spots on this list considering that you said every room, and obviously there's probably hundreds of rooms in Star Wars? Well, I didn't want to spend 10 minutes talking about random generic black room number 1, etc, etc. Basically just covering the 30 most notable and interesting rooms. At 28 is the Geonosis Hangar Bay. The fact that this is where the final duel in Attack of the Clones takes place has always been kind of sad to me. All the other movies feature really elaborate and dangerous settings that enrich the duel, except for maybe A New Hope, but even that one is debatably better than the Attack of the Clones location. This one is literally a dark room with some lights on the floor, and for a hangar bay it works just fine, but as a final duel location, I believe this to have been a terrible choice. Next up at 27 is the Kamino Meeting Room. This room is nostalgic for sure, and also very unique and alien, but it's also a clean CGI room with no notable features, which makes this selection far from the top. At 26 is Dex's Diner. George Lucas's love for retro 1950s diners is shown in full effect here, with this very memorable diner of Dex Jetster, which has very cool aesthetics and was built in real life, which gives it a more grounded feel. Although it is kind of hard to put a mere diner over that of the throne rooms and chambers we will look at later. At 25 is the Jedi Archives. This is one of the coolest sections of the Jedi Temple, with rows of tall-reaching blue archive shelves with busts of lost Jedi Masters separating the stores of knowledge from the access ports in between. I think this is a very memorable and saturated design, which I like a lot. At 24 is the Padme apartment. Padme's apartment has these really cool water fountains and patterns across it that give it the look of Naboo royalty in an urban environment. At 23 is the Scarif Vault. The Scarif Vault was one of the most notable designs of Rogue One, which adds a little bit of a heist movie element to this final battle, and I do like how they have to end up crawling around this bank, which has these visually pleasing beams intersecting the main structure. At 22 is the Supremacy Hyperspace Tracker. Even though we only see this for a few seconds in The Last Jedi, it was arguably a very cool design that looks very important and almost like a scaled down version of one of the reactors we see from the original trilogy. At 21 is the Naboo Throne Room. This is a design we see in episode 1 and 2, and it makes sense that it's up this high considering all of the architecture and color schemes of the Naboo buildings are simply beautiful. I also feel like this was a good change of pace coming off of the original trilogy, where 90% of the environments were dirty and worn out, with this being a clean and rich looking society in contrast. At 20 is the Mandalore Throne Room. I'm only putting the Mandalorian Throne Room higher because it has a more cold industrial look with the blacks, grays, and oranges. Also, the throne and window designs are very nice. At 19 is Echo Base. This base looks like it's built deep underground into the ice and kind of makeshift, which is a look that is seen often in the original trilogy, and this one I think is kind of underappreciated, but I also think it looks very good, especially when the base is under attack and the screens are cracked up and collapsed all over the ground. At 18 is the Death Star Conference Room. I love seeing all these Imperial officers in a dark, clean room, as this is one of the few times in the original trilogy we see something from the Imperial's perspective, and not just them as mindless goons, which is kind of how we view them when looking in the lens of a rebel soldier, sometimes literally. At 17 is the bridge room where Leia and Luke swing across, which is a very iconic room, and I don't know, I just think it looks very sci-fi and in a cool 70s Star Wars way. At 16 is the tractor beam room. This is better than the other two Death Star rooms mentioned so far because of how cool of a scene this is. Seeing Obi-Wan sneak around on the structure with ambient noises and music, also this structure is very unique. I honestly would have preferred this to be the location of the final duel over this random blast doors hallway. At 15 is the Mos Eisley Cantina. This one is very iconic, of course, but then again, it is so much better than Watto's shop because we now have a stage for the friggin' Dan Band and also multiple seating areas for the patrons on lower areas, which we see in the Minecraft DLC for Star Wars. At 14 is the Sereno office. While it was difficult to include very many rooms from the Clone Wars, considering there are hundreds of them, this office is one that has a very memorable yellowish green color with an intricate and sophisticated design on the windows that reflects that of the classiness that a Sereno count such as Dooku would have. At 13 is the Invisible Hand Bridge. I love the green lighting of this bridge, plus the Quarren ship designs are very unique, and I just like these types of ships a lot more than the Mon Calamari counterparts like the Home One. Also, this one is so cool compared to the Imperial Star Destroyer bridge because there's a big pilot's chair right in the middle, which everything is structured around, which I find to be a very cool design. Especially when my boy Lutros Dauphine is the one that's flying. Magnetize! 12. Trash Compactor. The Trash Compactor has such a dope look with its trashy floor and Diagona lurking underneath. It's certainly made for a very cool scene. At 11 is the Star Destroyer Bridge, and I know we were just talking about them, but the Imperial Star Destroyer Bridge is still to this day one of the cleanest designs in the Star Wars saga, and the massive opening plus the operational areas that are entrenched into the ground, as well as the holographic table on the back are all great. Or maybe that last bit was only in the Venator Star Destroyers, I can't really remember. 10. Palpatine Office. This office is another iconic prequels room with its red flooring, the sleek windows, tables, and decor of this suit. Even this mural, this beautiful mural.
That's just a stupid boulder!
It's not just a boulder! It's a rock!
9. Senate Chamber. While Palpatine's chamber is very clean, this one is too legendary to not acknowledge fully. This main Senate pod in the middle, surrounded by over 100 other pods for senators, and this is one of many arena-like structures that exist in the prequels, now that I think about it, with the other ones of course being the Pod Race Arena and the Geonosis Patronaki Arena. At 8 is the Mustafar Conference Room. While we don't see much of this room, and I suppose it's technically multiple rooms like Palpatine's office, the War Room with the massive blue tables as well as the screens on the sides and elevated areas all fit the architecture of Mustafar, plus the Council table which complements them nicely. Also from Revenge of the Sith is the Wizard's Tower on the Invisible Hand, which has this massive room, and I love how this mirrors the Emperor's throne room from Return of the Jedi. There is a lot of room for a great duel, the architecture of it is beautiful, and I love the space battle going on in the background. 6 is the Plasma Pit. While I wish I could talk about more areas from the Duel of the Fates scene, we are talking about rooms here, not hallways, although that would be a pretty good video to do in the future. I always love the cold silver color of this room that really is a stark contrast to the usually saturated look of the prequels. At 5 is Jabba's throne room. While some would call this messy, the morning chill vibes of this lair are so nice, and the decorations on the wall like the Tauntaun head here, as well as of course Han and Carbonite, plus the winding stairs and Jabba's little throne thing here, plus the opening that leads to the Rancor pit is so dope as well. 4. Snoke's throne room. You may hate this scene, but you can't deny that the art department was cooking with this clean red and somewhat black throne room, which is one of the most memorable designs and rooms from the entire sequel trilogy. Even better is the Emperor's throne room, which is massive, sprawling, and one of the better locations for a final duel with its many staircases, windows, and ledges. At 2 is the Carbonite chamber. This is one of the most iconic images from this movie, and for good reason. I might be a little biased as orange is one of my 2 favorite colors, but the fact that it's this intricate sci-fi design that actually has a function too is pretty dope. 1. Jedi Council Chambers. Okay, I had to do it. This room is just so iconic, the most memorable design, and in many ways, my favorite location design from the prequels. It blows my mind that we've somehow never seen it again in live action since then, but I do thoroughly love how this is in one of the 5 spires sitting atop this majestic temple, and how each of the seats are specifically designed for the species of Jedi that sits atop it. For my ranking of the movies based on how good the rooms are in them, since everyone has always asked themselves that question, at 11 is Solo, a Star Wars story, because none of the rooms from there even made it onto the list. 10 is Rise of Skywalker, which is the same thing, same with 9, The Force Awakens. However, at number 8 is Rogue One, because while there weren't too many notable rooms and it does take place in more sort of outdoors type areas like Scarif and Jeddah, I will say that the vault is pretty cool. At 7 is The Last Jedi because it had some great designs and some great art department stuff there. At 6 is Attack of the Clones. This is easily the worst of the Lucas movies when it comes to the room designs. While there are a couple memorable ones, a lot of them are just really boring, like that Geonosis hangar bay and some of the Camino stuff. So yeah, I don't know why like a lot of the sort of designs for this movie when it came to the planets and locations were really lacking compared to the other 2 prequels, but maybe it's because of how rushed this movie was compared to the other 2. At 5 is The Empire Strikes Back, which did have some cool ones like the Carbonite Chamber and the Echo Base, but overall not enough to grant it any higher. At 4 is The Phantom Menace, which has the Naboo architecture, which of course grants it a high spot. 3 is A New Hope, which actually to me was kind of surprising because a lot of these do actually come from the Death Star itself, which in my opinion is the best part of the movie, and I just love so many of the Imperial designs and just I love the Empire. I just think they're really cool and with their aesthetic and everything. At 2 is Revenge of the Sith, which had some truly amazing ones. Not only was the Jedi Temple room there, not only was the Jedi Council chamber there, even if it was introduced in The Phantom Menace, but also we had all the stuff on Mustafar and Palpatine's office, the Senate chambers. So I guess a lot of those weren't even designed for the movie, but like they were utilized to the best degree here. And that beautiful mural we talked about earlier was introduced here, so I'll give some props there. At 1 is Return of the Jedi because you had Jabba's throne room and the Emperor's throne room in 1, and to me that automatically makes it first place. But anyway, that's it for this video. You can subscribe if you want to. Consider checking out the fall merch drop for the limited time it is available. And actually, I do have a Bible verse for today, and it is Zechariah 13:9, and it says, "And I will put this third into the fire, refine them as one refines silver, and test them as gold is tested. They will call on my name, and I will answer them. I will say, they are my people, and they will say, the Lord is our God." I just thought that was a pretty cool verse there that I wanted to share today. Album of the week is going to 2014 Forest Hills Drive by J. Cole. Consider leaving a comment on this video if you have any questions or video suggestions for things I should do in the future, or if you just want to tell me how your week's been going. I upload normal videos at Friday, 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, shorts every single day, but yeah, see ya.